Well, one thing we wanted to talk about today, this is a tough fact to accept, but I think it's probably true. 5% of hunters kill 95% of the animals. It's an old saying, but I think it's actually true. And so we wanted to cover in this segment of the podcast what exact things are happening that's making those 5% of hunters successful year after year after year after year. And other guys can spend the time and the money to go on a hunt and take a week off work and go sit there and have the most boring week of their lives and never get the animals. I've been really fortunate to hunt with some just incredible hunters who just seem to have a sixth sense for where these animals are going to be. And so we want to cover what these things are that I see that they're doing that's making them successful year after year.
I think of Tate, but I haven't been on as many hunts as you have. You've seen a lot more guides and hunters than me. But Tate, he amazed me at his ability to
Yeah,
do that.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The number one that I would put there is being in the wrong general area. It's just not the area where the animals are right now. We had a deer hunt that a few years ago I went on with my boys, and we only went for 2 or 3 days. And I did my e-scouting, did all the planning, everything, and we hiked in early in the morning, got up onto this mountain ridge, set up our tent in the back country. We had only seen one hunter in that whole area. We were set. We were ready to go. And day one goes by looking in this area that I really felt like should be good. And we just spent 24 hours going around, glassing, hiking, and we just saw very little sign. There was just, we saw a couple little deer poops. We saw a couple tracks, and that was it for the day. And it hadn't rained in 2 weeks, and so there should have been a lot of sign around if there were animals even, if we were in the general area. And so we knew it's time to get out of town. Like, don't spend 7 days here. It's just not going to happen. And so you got to get out of town. And I think that's the hardest thing for a new hunter. I was just talking yesterday at church to a guy that wants to take his son on a deer hunt for the first time. And that was the first thing in my mind as he was saying, like, hey, I'm going to go hunt this unit. And that was the first thing in my mind is like, okay, what information could I give him to at least get him in the deer, at least be in the area? Because it's so easy for a new hunter to just camp out in a deer desert.
Oh, and how just demotivating it is when you're out there and you're hiking and you see nothing.
It's pretty frustrating.
I hate that.
Well, and that leads into a second reason, which is not only being lazy, but just giving up.
Yeah.
You spend 1-2 days and you're like, there's nothing here. I'm not seeing any sign. And instead of moving and, finding where the deer are or whatever you're hunting, wherever it is, you just give up and you leave. There's nothing here, so I'm just going to leave.
Yep.
Yeah, that was something that I think I've already talked about before, but what Tate did when he was taking us on the hunt, his method was just be hunting all day. And then, which was fascinating because Jim's like, no, I probably wouldn't hunt during the day because it was a bear hunt and we would go early in the morning or late at night because that's when the bears are most active, right? And you just kind of sleep during the day. But no, Tate's like, I just got to find where the bear are. And so I'm going to be moving all day to be able to try to spot something.
Yeah, if you know you're in the thick of the animals, sure, yeah, you can go sit in the morning and the evening when you know they're going to be the most active. If you're trying to find the area, I think that was awesome. Like, just be out there the whole day because you may not, maybe the animals are bedded in the afternoon, but you're out there finding where's the sign, where's the water, where's everything. Where do you see bedding areas that you're getting that much closer to them?
So one thing I thought was really helpful is we camped in one area and took a small vehicle around all the roads to get us to cover more ground a lot more quickly.
Which is easy to do if you're, especially coming west for a first or a big public land hunt. Is guys are like, okay, I'm backpacking hunting, and it's like that is awesome, and it is really good to get away from the crowds if you can get back a few miles. But you could spend a full day getting back there and find nothing. And so being able to stay mobile, if you can, be hunting in a vehicle, if that's legal in the unit that you are, to just cover some ground and at least find the general areas first, that's going to be helpful.
And to be able to have that skill while on the hunt is kind of necessary, because Jim has been out so many times and he knows where the animals are because he goes up and scouts on previous weekends before the actual hunt. But then once hunting season rolls around, those animals are out of there and
They change their patterns, absolutely.
Yeah. And so you just still have to be able to find them.
Yep. And that's the next biggest one that I think is most frustrating for hunters is one of the reasons when the guys that I see that are just killing every single year, networking. Networking is
All got buddies.
huge.
That
Yeah.
has been so tough for us. We don't have any friends. We really don't. It's so weird.
Yeah,
I mean, Jim has
we're-
a lot of friends. I didn't mean that. I just mean it's hard to find a good group who wants to go at the same time you do and who is invested in it just as much as you.
Yeah, but I think that's the reason that we are killing animals is we know people.
Yeah.
Like, being able to get like somebody that says, hey, there's a landowner tag here that you can get, like that's huge to be able to do it. And so if you have kind of that network, you just have hunting buddies, just people who hunt, there are Facebook groups that you can, there are hunters and say, hey, anybody had this tag before that could answer a couple questions for me? Things like that. Like if you can just get some intel on what are the good units, what are the good times to go, and especially areas within that unit.
Can you help us out a little bit more there, Jim? Can you direct us to those resources?
Well, I'd love to see more people asking on Backfire Plus. We got a lot of hunters in there, pretty serious hunters, and because it's a paid community, that's the kind of place where people are going to be more willing to give up, that it's not going to be just publicly on the internet. And I've seen a few people who post and say, hey, I'm hunting this unit, anybody got things? And people gave them awesome answers in there. I think people kind of have the assumption that nobody's going to give up their honey holes, and that's true, but so often you're hunting a tag that guys like, I don't hunt that unit anymore. Or I had that tag that it takes several points to get, and I'm not going to have it for several years, something like that. And I actually find a lot of people are willing to give really helpful information on where to go. And so there's kind of this stigma of don't ask. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I see a lot of people being really giving in helping people in finding places. So go to Facebook groups.
And what would you search? Like, what types of things would you search? Just hunting groups generically?
Like Utah elk hunting. You'll find a Utah elk hunting group, an Idaho elk hunting group, and just say, hey, I'm hunting this unit. These are the areas that I'm generally looking. Does anybody know where the herd is this time of year generally?
Okay.
That kind of post, you're going to get a bunch of people, writing junk on there, like nobody's going to tell you, but you're going to find a lot of people that will.
Cool.
I think the most helpful, though, is just saying, this is the tag I have. Has anybody hunted it before? And then get into a private message with them, and then they'll probably be more willing to share stuff.
Good idea. What next?
Next, I would say, is the big one, just missing the target. How many people are missing the target after all of that work and potentially years of going, third year in a row, third year going back to this area. The first year, you at least heard elk. The second year, you saw some elk at a distance, and now you're in on them and whiff. Most hunters are going to whiff before they hit, right? And so, if you're only getting 2 boxes of ammo per year, you're probably going to be in that group.
Okay, and don't you think probably the number one reason why people might have this experience is because we're not quite understanding that shooting a one MOA group at 100 yards isn't the same as shooting a one MOA group at 400 yards.
Yeah.
And just the variance that happens between that amount of distance. Like, you can get your gun dialed, but it's not ready to hunt yet unless you shoot at 200, 300, 400, 500 yards.
This was a clip from the Backfire Mancast, our podcast that we do every 10 days. Check out the Backfire Mancast. It's the really purpose of it is there are a lot of things that YouTube doesn't allow us to say every week, and that's where we can say it. But here we give a couple clips of things that are suitable for the YouTube overlords.